I read something this morning that really hits home. There's people out there that are dying of depression but can't tell anybody because y'all gossip instead of helping. I needed help. I was begging for help. I went to everybody that I could to try to get help. I even was seeing therapists. I finally got into housing. I finally got disability. Thing is, I got tired of being victimized my whole life because I can't take care of myself. And instead of helping, people picked on me and ostracized me and took advantage of me, and I was able to work. I mean, that wasn't a problem. It was the availability of housing. People think that you can just magic yourself up into this stuff. No, you gotta work really hard to get that stuff, and most people, it takes 2 or 3 people to do that. And when you gotta deal with depression from the abuse that you've taken, pills don't help. Housing does, but it's gotta be the right kind of housing. I mean, if you can't invite your friends over because there's rules against it, come on now, you're a fucking adult. You should be allowed to have friends. You should be allowed to invite your friends over. You should be allowed to go do fun things, but people seem to be of this opinion that if you're broke, then you should just work 24/7. And I tried that. It doesn't work very well. You get exhausted quickly, and you get overwhelmed, and you get depressed, and then people are mean because you're exhausted and you're depressed, and you shouldn't be sleeping. You shouldn't be sleeping. You shouldn't be sleeping. I needed help, and people just wanted to give me pretty words. I needed help, and they told me shit like, you just gotta love yourself. I mean, I'm overwhelmed. Before Natalie came into my life, I was depressed as all fuck. I hurt my back and I didn't have any friends anymore, and that's how quick it happened. That was my birthday in 2015, and people poked me with a stick and poked me with a stick and poked me with a stick, and then played victim when I poked them back. Like, come on, leave me the fuck alone, dude. And then people I never did no wrong to, they want to be friends with the people who wronged me, so throwing me away like I was garbage was nothing to them. But that wasn't the major issue. The major issue was most of these people knew me, and they still turned a blind eye, and I needed help. I needed help getting this stuff to stop. I mean, I spent a lot of time trying to go to a lot of meetings and go to a lot of therapy appointments and all that. And Maddie Boa, she was pretty mean. She's like, you need to go to AA or some shit like that. I didn't need that. I needed friends. My situation's always environmental. Drugs don't fix environmental issues. I needed housing. When I moved into Ken and Leah's, the first thing they did is steal all my money. I had a choice between my government housing in Chapel, Nebraska, or Ken and Leah's closer to my friends, and I chose Ken and Leah's, and immediately they made me regret it. But they got away with it because Natalie died. Also, I'm not mentally retarded. I'm overwhelmed. There's just too much for one person to do. And then when you're screaming and you're shouting, it shuts me down. And I have to take it because if I speak up, I get kicked out. If you're on alcohol and you're screaming and shouting all the time, it doesn't even have to be at me. It's just screaming and shouting that does it. And it's only when I'm trapped in that environment, when the consequences of leaving are worse than the consequences of staying. I can't handle homelessness. If I could go see my loved ones, I could be homeless. But being cut off from them, not able to communicate with them, because people wanted to assume that I killed someone I didn't, assume that I stalked somebody that I didn't, and I never got to defend myself against that slander because the mental health professionals that are supposed to help with that didn't. They were too slow, and I didn't understand how all that worked. I needed the abuse to stop. Assisted suicide should be legal. I'm tired of being victimized. I'm tired of being told I wanted it. When somebody beats me up, you tell me I wanted it. When the police don't take my report, you say I wanted it. I chose it. I didn't choose it. I needed a safe place. I needed a safe environment without a bunch of screaming all the damn time. Then there's the issue of people like Shannon Alvarado. Like, really, Shannon, is it really that goddamn difficult to admit that you got drunk and screamed at people irrationally every night? If you had any compassion at all, you would fucking admit the truth. But you don't want to. You don't want to. You're not willing to. You're not willing to recognize that the way that you acted every night had a bearing on my ability to function. And me having the fear confronting you about it, for fear of homelessness, I mean, that just makes it so much worse. When I tell you that something that you do hurts me, don't treat me like the bad guy. And don't talk over me. You will get your chance to speak, but I never get mine because you're busy talking over me, and you keep on doing it until I fold. It doesn't matter if it's alcohol or methamphetamines. It's all too much for me to handle right now. I needed a safe environment to sit down and work on this stuff. And you know, people kept telling me that locked up in the fucking institutions or locked up in the jails that I was safe. No, I didn't have access to that evidence to sit down and work on it. So it wasn't a safe environment. And then the things that they do to you in those places make it even more unsafe. I needed to be able to show the truth. I needed to be able to get a day in court. Ken and Leah weren't going to be useful as far as that goes at all. Leah is very selfish, and Ken does what Leah wants. I hurt every day, and I want my life to end, and if I scream and shout at the top of my lungs for help, I don't get it. I get disturbing the peace, or I get assaulted and they charge me with assault and resisting arrest, and so on and so forth. And then people want to spout shit at me, like I was telling them people at the Social Security office that they put a bag over my head and claimed I tried to bite them. And when he called me back, we spoke about it briefly, and he said, well, you told me you spit on them. I'm like, no, dude, you assumed that because they put a bag over my head, you fucking idiot. And that's why it's important to record it, and that's why I did record it. People got a bad habit of remembering things how they want to. Selective hearing and all that. I was never allowed to write a report, and that's not acceptable. Amanda Jonas, she gave me one sheet of paper. After arresting me, I was supposed to be there to write a report. And after arresting me, she took me to a little annex there and had me rush through it while she filled in a few details I didn't know. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not even writing a report. I'm just writing stuff down so I can remember it. I'm just writing stuff down that Amanda's saying so that I can remember it. So I can remember it was Officer Burke who assaulted me. And then, there's a situation where, I can't function because I'm scared and anticipating the next time somebody who's on meth or alcohol is going to shout and start screaming, especially when they do it nightly or daily. I did get a couple of days there to myself where I was able to function here, but being stuck in public prevents me from doing most of the things I need to do. I should be allowed to die. If I can't have a safe environment and access to that evidence so that I can sit down and write it down without having fear of losing it because I can't get it back because I don't have an address. That's the thing, is that I fell through the cracks because nobody cared. And I heard that so much. Nobody cares, nobody cares, nobody cares.